Serial killers have always captivated the public's attention. Ever since the days of Jack the Ripper, people have been fascinated by them and want to understand the mind of someone who takes another life for pure self-gratification. Statistically speaking, most serial killers are male and their motivations are vast and varied, ranging from sexual to thrill-seeking and sometimes even financial. All of these serial killers have inspired countless books, movies, and discussions. With most serial killers being male, it may be uncomfortable for some to learn that female serial killers exist and they're just as deadly, if not more depraved than their male counterparts. Among one of the most infamous female serial killer figures in the UK is Joanna Dennehy. She has left an indelible mark on society and her name still echoes in the annals of British criminal history. This video will delve into the chilling story of Joanna Dennehy, examining her life and crimes. In the sleepy town of Hereford, something terrible was about to happen. Men were up and were following their daily routines, walking their dogs in the community. Two men would be stabbed in separate unprovoked and frenzied attacks. For a community in which any violent crime is incredibly unusual and unlikely to occur, the attack stood out. Within a short space of time following these broad daylight attacks, the suspect would be cornered by armed police and surrendered. She was Joanna Dennehy. Born on October 5, 1982, Joanna Dennehy was raised in St. Albans, Hertfordshire. Very little is known about her early life, but it is believed that she had a relatively normal upbringing. She was a sensitive but nice child, who was doing well at school. However, Dennehy suddenly changed in her teenage years. She became troubled and at age 14, she started a relationship with a 20-year-old. The relationship was not only illegal but extremely destructive to Dennehy and her mindset. She began committing crime and spiraled downhill quickly. Whilst the exact factors that contributed to her descent into becoming a serial killer remain up for debate, it is widely believed that either the early stages of a child's life or their teenage years can play a pivotal role into how they will eventually turn out and interact with others within society. Joanna's teenage life experiences must have played a pivotal role into shaping her psychopathic tendencies, which she used to the detriment of men that she came into contact with later on. It is widely believed that she hated men, with how she acted and behaved very telling toward the type of person that she was. Dennehy displayed aggressive, confrontational and masculine behavior, contrasting the typical feminine woman. Joanna Dennehy seemed upbeat in custody. Officers were shocked by her behavior, as if she'd just been arrested for a minor charge, like stealing some sweets. It turned out that she had embarked on a killing spree. Over a 14-day period, Dennehy targeted vulnerable men looking for company or simply minding their own business. She sought out victims who were pretty much defenseless, attacking them from behind with a knife, or ones believing that they were going to get some play. She preyed on their desire to sleep with her essentially. With a chilling lack of empathy, she lured her victims to enclosed locations before brutally stabbing them to death. Miraculously, 2 of the victims managed to survive, which led to them providing crucial accounts and information which helped to secure a conviction. One of the victims was named Kevin Lee and he was a letting agent. He let out rooms to mostly homeless and vulnerable people. The private estate didn't exactly have the best reputation because many residents were criminals who had just been released from prison. One such resident was a 30-year-old woman by the name of Joanna Dennehy. Joanna and Kevin struck up a relationship of sorts, with Joanna telling Kevin about her time behind bars. She told him that her dad had raped her when she was younger, which is apparently a complete lie. She also told Kevin that she had killed people. Kevin didn't seem fazed by these crazy stories and wound up letting Joanna stay rent-free in one of his properties. He was seemingly infatuated with Dennehy, and although I'm not judging him, he should have seen the obvious warning signs associated with this psychopathic woman. It should come as no surprise that Dennehy was taking advantage of Kevin, but the relationship was one of you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. Bad tenants across his properties who didn't behave or pay up would be visited by Dennehy's 7-foot-tall friend named Gary Richards, aka Stretch. Dennehy had complete control of the 7-foot giant. The partnership between Kevin and Joanna worked for a while but was destined to end bad. Despite having a partner back at home, Kevin headed over to one of his Peterborough properties to spend some alone time with Joanna. He never returned home. Within days, Kevin's burnt-out car and body had been found in a remote field. He was dressed in women's clothing and had been positioned in a degrading way. Kevin had been stabbed 5 times, in the lungs and heart. A murder investigation would be launched and police quickly narrowed in on a potential suspect, Joanna Dennehy. Kevin had frequently been calling Dennehy and police surmised that he'd gone around to the Peterborough property to see her. Upon arriving at the now abandoned property, they found a blood-stained mattress in the back garden. Testing of the blood from the mattress came back as a match to human blood, but it turned out that it wasn't Kevin's blood, it was that of another man. John Chapman was a known drinker who was harmless and well-liked. He had been stabbed to death by Dennehy, probably whilst he was sleeping. His blood was on the mattress. His body was later found in another remote location. Adding to the madness, another man was tied to Joanna Dennehy. Lucas Slabszewski was a Polish national. He was a substance user who lived a chaotic lifestyle. He was attacked and stabbed to death by Dennehy. Lucas had gone to meet Dennehy for sexual reasons. His body was also discovered in the same ditch as John. The bodies had horrific injuries, with stab wounds to the victims' hearts. It should be mentioned that Dennehy had even shown a young girl the body of Lucas, discarded in a bin at her property. Why she felt the need to do this isn't known. I'm assuming that the young girl didn't report the situation because she was too afraid of this psychopathic woman. With a great risk to the general public, Dennehy and her likely accomplice, Stretch, were listed as murder suspects. They were now on the run and police agencies were notified. As the pair drove around, they seemed aimless and unsure about where to head. They eventually ended up in the town of Hereford. Dennehy wanted to kill men and she drank whiskey as they drove about. During the drive, they stole food at service stations and photographed themselves at different locations. Whilst in Hereford, Dennehy attacked the two male dog walkers in unprovoked, separate attacks. After the second stabbing, she said, that was nice. I need to do some more." She even took the second victim's dog, but fortunately, she didn't harm it. Police would be alerted to the incidents and pursued the suspect car. Her and Stretch were apprehended by armed police, who had been informed about the brutal, broad daylight attacks. At the station, Joanna Dennehy laughed and joked with officers. She didn't seem concerned with the severity of her situation. Unfazed by the consequences of her actions, police were baffled by her absence of emotion and insane behavior. Joanna Dennehy pled guilty and the court sentenced her to a whole life prison term, ensuring that she would never be released to reoffend and pose a threat to men in society. Many people were surprised that she didn't try to drag out the trial because she loved being the center of attention. It should be noted that she was the third woman to ever receive a whole life tariff in the UK, and the court heard that her motivations for the murders were sexual and sadistic. Whilst behind bars, she would be diagnosed with the paraphilia known as sadomasochism. Dennehy had laughed at her sentence and to this day, is arguably more dangerous than most of the male killers currently locked up. Dennehy has had relationships behind bars, and I'm sure that many women love her in prison because she is very masculine. There has even been reports of Dennehy involving herself with senior male prison guards. Clearly, she is still very much sought after by men and women alike. Her accomplice, the man known as Stretch, was eventually given life imprisonment. He had helped Dennehy dispose of victim bodies and had pointed out the two dog walk victims to Dennehy.